There's a moment, and if you're watching this, you may have already lived it, when everything you thought defined you stops being enough. Your title, your role, the version of yourself you worked so hard to build, and life, quietly or violently, hands you a new question. Who are you now? That question isn't a crisis, it's a threshold. And learning how to cross it consciously, it's exactly what this episode is about. This video and this entire series is for you if you've ever felt like you're standing at a crossroads and no one gave you a map. If you're going through a career shift, a relationship ending, a loss of identity, a burnout you can't shake, or simply a deep sense that something has to change, but you don't know what yet. Stay until the end. I'm going to give you reflection questions and some goals that you could start this very week. Save this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe and ring the bell because this series goes deeper every single episode. Hello, I'm Dr. RB. I'm a licensed psychologist in Florida and New York. And if you're returning, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found your way. This channel is a sacred space where depth psychology meets ancient wisdom and where spirituality, human design, and therapeutic tools come together to guide personal transformation. My mission is simple: to help you reconnect with your authentic self and divine guidance so you can navigate this rapidly changing world with clarity, purpose, and peace. Today, we're opening the door to something I call transformational thresholds. The moments in life when who you were is no longer who you're becoming. Let's begin. The word threshold comes from the Old English threshold, literally the piece of wood you step over when entering a new space. Think about the wedding tradition of the groom carrying the bride over the threshold of their new home. That gesture, which so many of us have seen or experienced, carries echoes of the same ancient meaning. In Roman times, it was believed that a bride who stumbled crossing the threshold would bring misfortune to the marriage. So the groom carried her across just in case, literally lifting her over the divide between one's life and the next. The threshold wasn't just a piece of wood. It was a sacred boundary, a before and an after, a moment that said, what you were ends here. What you become begins now. In psychology, we talk about transitions, but a threshold is something more precise. It's not just a change in circumstances. It's a change in who you are in relation to those circumstances. Depth psychologist Carl Jung called these moments individuation crises, periods when the self you constructed for the world no longer fits the self that is trying to emerge. As Jung wrote, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. That terror is real because crossing a threshold means leaving behind an identity that, even if it no longer serves you, still feels like home. Research supports this. In a landmark study by Herminia Ibarra at London Business School, she found that major life transitions are not primarily about finding new answers. They're about tolerating the discomfort of not yet knowing who you are becoming. She called this the identity transition paradox. You can't figure out who you are by thinking about it. You have to act your way into a new self. So the question isn't, do I need to change? The question is, am I willing to cross this threshold consciously? Or will I let life drag me across it? In my clinical work, I've observed that transformational thresholds really show up in three forms. And you may be living one right now, or all three. The first one is the sudden threshold, a diagnosis, a job loss, a relationship ending, a death. Something external forces the door open whether you're ready or not. Psychologists call this a lifequake, a term coined by Bruce Feiler in his research on life transitions. He found that the average person experiences 3 to 5 major life-altering events, and that these disruptions, when navigated consciously, become the most defining chapters of a person's story. The second is the slow threshold. This one is quieter and often more dangerous because it's easier to ignore. It's the slow erosion of meaning, the career that no longer excites you, the relationship that has become comfortable but hollow, the version of yourself that smiles on the outside while something inside slowly dims. Viktor Frankl, neurologist and psychiatrist, and Holocaust survivor, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. When the why disappears, that's a slow threshold, and it demands just as much courage to cross as a sudden one." The third is the soul threshold. This is the one that doesn't come with a clear external trigger. It's a spiritual awakening, a dark night of the soul, a calling that you can feel but can't yet name. In Jungian terms, this is the voice of the self, the deeper organizing principle of the psyche, asking you to integrate parts of yourself that have been in shadow. These 3 thresholds are not separate events. Often they happen in waves, and every one of them carries the same invitation: become more fully who you actually are. So, how do you actually cross the threshold without losing yourself in the process? Research from William Bridges, one of the foremost experts on life transitions, tells us that every transition has 3 phases. Phase 1, the ending. Before something new can begin, something must end. And this is the hardest part because we resist endings. We grieve them, we bargain with them. Bridges says most people fail transitions not because they can't find what's next, but because they never fully let go of what was. Phase 2, the neutral zone. This is the in-between, the wilderness, the liminal space. You left the old shore but haven't yet reached the new one. It feels like lostness, like failure. But Bridges calls this the most creative, fertile period in any human life, if you don't run from it. Phase 3, the new beginning. This is not a triumphant moment. It's a quiet, tentative one, a first step, a new identity still soft around the edges, like a new shell forming on a crab between molds. Here's what the research tells us about people who navigate thresholds well. They don't try to rush the neutral zone. They develop what psychologists call narrative identity, the ability to see their life as a coherent story, even mid-chapter, and they stay in relationship. They don't isolate. They reach toward community, mentors, and guides. As poet Rainer Maria Rilke writes in Letters to a Young Poet, be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves. That is the work of the threshold, not to answer the questions, but to love them long enough for the answers to emerge. Not easy. I want to give you 3 reflections now. I'd encourage you to pause the video and come back to it. Take a moment and really write your answers down. There is something powerful about making the inner conversation visible on paper. Question 1. What threshold are you currently standing at, or have you acknowledged it out loud to yourself or to someone you trust? Question 2. Which phase of transition are you in right now? Are you at the ending, the neutral zone, or the new beginning? And are you resisting the phase you're currently in? Question 3. What would it mean to cross this threshold consciously, with intention, with support, and with your values intact? Take your time. These are not questions for a rushed moment. They are questions for a quiet one. Now, let's move from reflection into action. because insight without action is just information. So I want you now to identify one threshold you're currently navigating, whether sudden, slow, or soul level, and I want you to write it down in one clear sentence. Spend 15 minutes, just 15 minutes, writing about where you are in Bridges' three phases. Are you in the ending, the neutral zone, or the new beginning? You don't need a journal for this. A notes app, the back of an envelope, a voice memo, whatever's available to you right now, go ahead. This matters because naming where you are is the first act of crossing consciously. You cannot navigate terrain you refuse to see. I want you to do this before the end of this week. Not someday, not next week, this week. We are just beginning. Over the coming weeks, we'll go deeper into each kind of threshold, the identity crisis, the burnout, the shadow, the relationships that are asking you to grow. We'll bring research, depth psychology, and practical tools to each one because you deserve more than inspiration. You deserve transformation. If today's message resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe, like, or share. It helps this work reach those who need it the most. You can also find me on other social media platforms. I'll have the links below. Thank you for spending this time with me. Remember, you're guided, you're loved, and your path is sacred. Until next time, take good care of your soul. This is Dr. RB.